All right, welcome back. It's JankTech. It's that new exciting series about Star Wars Unlimited where we talk about all the stuff you don't get to do in Premiere. Stupid card combos, 80 card Twin Suns decks, different formats. Oh my god, so much good stuff. So what have we got for y'all today? Well, let's just take a look at what we got on the screen and all of these different aspects of things. Yeah, that's right. It is a real wonky Twin Suns deck. We've got heroism. We've got villainy. Yeah, y'all know what that means. It's Chancellor Palpatine. We have a super big, super dumb, really, really fun deck. I've gotten to play this one recently, and I actually won the last game I played with it. I don't know necessarily that it's good, but it has a lot of super fun things that you can do in it that make you feel like a total, awesome dude whenever you do them. So yeah, let's get started. I'm thinking this is going to be one of the last 80 card decks I do before Jump to Lightspeed comes out. I think I'm going to start doing some videos about Jump to Lightspeed, then maybe incorporating some of those cards in with the older ones, and then we'll get back into making these cool decks. So I've still got a few other ones that I'm a brewing. We'll see how those go. Also, if you've checked out any of my Learn to Play Twin Suns videos, there should be a couple of those up already, and then there's 2 more in the works. Well, thank you so much for looking at those. I look forward to getting the rest of them out. All right, let's get it going with this. So JankTech, old man yells at 80 clouds. This is sort of because every single Chancellor Palpatine deck I have done, I have used old man yells at cloud, like the Simpsons meme. And it's just he's yelling at different things depending on what deck it is. So he's yelling at 80 clouds. There's 80 cards. It's fun. So what does Chancellor Palpatine do? So he starts the game with this side face up, meaning if you're going to use him in a deck, you have to use him in a heroism deck. I wish you could pair him with bad guy leaders, but oh well, that's how it works. As an action, you exhaust him. If a friendly heroism unit was defeated this phase, draw a card, heal 2 damage from your base, and then flip him. When you flip him, oh, it's not coming up. This is a new version of swupdx. So I'm not quite familiar with how all this works, but essentially once we flip him, he turns into a whole different side and does different things, giving you access to, giving you access to different stuff. So once he flips, he will be exhausted, so you can't use this ability until the next round. But next round, as an action, exhaust him. If you played a villain card this phase, create a clone trooper token, deal 2 damage to each enemy base, then flip this later. So you are trying to create an engine with this character in order to flip this card and just kind of keep on doing your nefarious things. This is a really fun card in Twin Suns. You don't get him out as a leader unit. I don't think you need him. You are damaging the hell out of everyone. Every single time you flip him from the side, you do 2 damage to everyone. Everyone at the table is always just like, wait, again? Wait, you're doing 2 damage to everyone? It sucks. It's really fun and just really interesting to play as. I hope they do more leaders like this in the future because this is just too cool. So one of the difficulties in making this leader work is that you need to have a light side unit die, a heroism unit die. I'm probably going to say light side, dark side, heroism, villainy interchangeably. Just know that that's what that's going to mean. So one of the hardest things with Chancellor Palpatine is getting his engine started. Once you can get him to flip over, you have a way of creating clone troopers, which are heroism units, which can die in order to flip your ability over to the other side. The interesting thing about playing him in Twin Suns is that since we are playing him with another heroism leader, you can still play heroism cards no matter what, because Han over here isn't going to change the heroism aspect being in or out of play. But you can only play your villain cards when Chancellor Palpatine is flipped over to his bad guy side, unless you want to pay the aspect tax. So there's some ways of kind of getting around this in this deck, not very many, but most of it is just like knowing when to flip over, when to use what card when, and sort of plan out the structure of your turns. So we're using Han Solo, Worth the Risk, along with this. As an action, play a unit from your hand. It costs 2 less, deal 2 damage to it. And of course, when you deploy young Han Solo, you can just do that as much as you want on your turn. just kind of depends on how many resources you have to pay for that. So we got them. We're running blue. And the reason I'm running blue as opposed to green is because there's a lot of force units that I think complement that. There's a lot of like really good stuff in blue that works well with these abilities, and we'll see how that goes as we go down through all the cards and stuff. So one of the cool ways that these two work together is that Han allows you to play heroic units at a discount with damage on them. If they're damaged, they can sometimes die right out of the gate, or they can die extremely easily. So we use this to our advantage, and we use Han to sort of soften him up for Palpatine to be able to flip. This is great. One of the cool things about Chancellor Palpatine is if you can manage to delay flipping him from light side to dark side until after somebody claims the blast, well, you just kind of nullified somebody blasting everyone else. So that's a real fun part about it. We're just going to take a quick scan through all of the stuff in this deck. You can see almost everything has either heroism or villainy. There's very, very, very few neutral aspect cards in this deck, and that is by design. We want to be able to proc our leader ability as much as possible with Palpatine. We want his engine to keep going, and we want to keep playing cards that support that. You can see the aspects on here. There's just a complete mix of things, and it makes playing this deck really interesting because it makes your decisions about what you do every turn really interesting. And so you have to consider, how much do things cost just playing them? How much do things cost when you're using Han? It's just, it's such a cool deck to play. Oh my gosh, I love it. So let's get into it. Let's see what's in here and why am I doing it. This is going to be a long one again. So if y'all have seen my last 80 card one, I think that lasted about an hour. I'm guessing this whole video is probably going to be about the same. But you know what? It's Star Wars. We're talking Star Wars. Let's buckle up. Let's have a great time with it. 2-1B surgical droid. We're not going to kill everything. Sometimes we might even want to use Han's ability to bring a villain card in for cheap just because we want to play ahead of our cost curve for a little bit. So in that case, we can use 2-1B to heal the damage from another unit when it attacks. Love 2-1B. One of the few cards that's neutral that I wanted to include in this deck. Death Star Stormtrooper. It's a 3-1 for 1. It's an extremely easy villain card to play. One of the cool things about this, remember, Palpatine, as he on his Sidious side, only cares about villain cards. You can play villain units, you can play villain events, you can play villain upgrades, just as long as it's something that you are playing. Cat is going absolutely bananas behind me. So a unit like the Death Star Stormtrooper is really easy to put on the board, that when you are on this side of Palpatine, it enables you to turn that flip action on to something that can do anything. So this is great. Also, it hits for a whole lot. That's also fun. R2-D2, ignoring protocol. Of course, R2 is in here. We want to filter our deck. We want to play heroes. He doesn't work with Palpatine's ability as well, nor do we really want him to. R2's there to just have a big butt and to let us see what cards we need in this deck above all other decks, because we are so tied to what side our leader is on. We need to make sure we've got the right aspect cards at all times in our hands and for our upcoming turns. R2 helps get us there. We want R2 to stay alive. Generally, don't kill R2 with Han Solo. Soldier of the 501st. It's 1-3 with Raid 1. Super easy to play. Kind of fragile, especially if you put some damage on it with Han's ability and kind of dangle that out there as a carrot and say, hey, why don't you kill this, buddies? Love it. Spec Force Soldier. Okay, so this guy's in here for two reasons. Number one, it's a 2-2 with a cool when played ability. If someone has a Sentinel out there, you need to get past it. You play the Spec Force Soldier, bam, you can get past it. But also, if you want to be real silly, you can use Han Solo's ability. First turn, play this for free. It comes out with 2 damage on it immediately, dies. Guess what? You're flipping Palpatine. You can flip Palpatine immediately with this, and you still have 2 resources. Get that engine running. You know, it's like people can't do too much on your first turn. And as long as you can keep things going, then no problem. 30-second Stalwart. It's a 1-2 with coordinate, gets +1/+1. Again, it's an easy, cheap, light side unit to kill if you absolutely need to flip and you have no other alternatives. And also, they get better if you've got more stuff. I think it's a pretty fun card. Hylabon Enforcer. So this one's cool for a couple of reasons. It's a cheap villain card, which you can easily play. If you really want, once Palp flips over to his evil side, you can play this for free with Han, with damage already on it. So it's already gridded up, ready to hit for a whole lot. I think that's super fun. Sabine Wren, Explosives Artist. I mean, Sabine's great. We're running her in a deck with 3 different aspects so that there's an excellent chance that the opponent's going to have a hard time hitting her. She does extra damage to stuff when she swings. She's just a solid 2-cost unit. You probably don't want to kill Sabine if you can help it, but, you know, if you have to, you have to. On the other hand, Outspoken Representative. Oh, are you kidding me? This guy is cannon fodder. Like a 0/3 when you control another Republic unit against Sentinel. Well, we're going to hope to have Republic units, especially if we're cranking out clone troopers. So there's a good chance this can be a Sentinel. There's a good chance you can play it with Han at a discount to have some damage on it. And then it dies and, you know, creates another clone trooper token. Since it's a heroism unit that dies, it gives you the ability to flip from light side to dark side. I think this card is awesome in this deck. Kashyyyk Defender, you know it, you love it. It's a Wookiee with grit. Again, we like using Han to play it, to get it out a little bit early or just cheap and have damage already on it. You can load it up with more damage from other things. And remember, we're playing Twin Suns. You have 3 opponents to choose from as well if any of their units are damaged. This is great political fodder here. Love this guy. I love this card. Give me more Wookiees, please. Oh my gosh. Bib Fortuna. Okay, Bib Fortuna is neat. He was one of my later inclusions in this deck. And part of it is him being shielded. Means you can play him with Han. He'll come in with the damage on him, then he'll get his shield. So he's still going to be able to take a little bit of a hit if he needs to. But more importantly, you can play events for cheap. Since being able to play cards effectively in this deck is your life's blood, anything that discounts cards in any way is really useful. So Bib Fortuna, if he can play events for cheap, I mean, we've got a decent amount of events in here. And you can see that Wartime Profiteering, that's villain. Given Your Anger, that's villain. Like Force Choke, No Good to Me Dead. Most of the events are villain or neutral in this deck, and that's also by design. We want to be able to play these cards on other people's turns. I'm sorry, we want to be able to play these cards after we have flipped over to our dark side so that we can enable the damage everyone flip over to our light side. Bib Fortuna just makes it easier to play any of these events. I tried also with the events to have them pretty cheap for the most part so that we can hopefully still play units, because remember, we're going to get the cost reduction with Han Solo on a lot of things. Speaking of cards that are great for Han Solo and his cost reduction, Heroic Renegade, 2/3 with grit, bam, play it for 1, gets 2 damage on it. You can smack somebody for a lot with it, or you can just have it die so you can proc your leader flip. Love it. Scout Bike Pursuer, same thing. We're using Han to do Grand Inquisitor tricks in this, and I absolutely love it. Being able to play this guy for cheap is fantastic. Sometimes you might not even get your engine started. So if you're like, oh, well, I need to pay aspect tax, I can play him for 3 with Han and then get his grit going so that at least if somebody attacks into it, well, then, you know, this will hit back for a lot. I love the Scout Bike Pursuer. It's such a fun include in this deck. It's one of the reasons that I think blue is fun. Phase 1 Clone Trooper. It's another play it with Han Solo and have it immediately die to flip your guy. It's a Republic unit, so the Outspoken Representative turns into a Sentinel. And also, if it survives somehow, then you can hit for 3 damage. I think that's great. R2-D2 Full of Solutions. It's another dig through your deck and find stuff card. It's another Republic card. R2's great. He's got a big old butt. If you need to soak a little bit of damage, like a lot of things you can, you know, kill for 2 in this game if somebody's got some Sentinels that you absolutely need to deal with. Well, R2 can soften him up and still be alive. And the great thing about this one is he's kind of just a body after coming into play, because he's done his ability. It's not like the other R2 and it keeps on going every time you attack. This R2, it's like you use him and then maybe you dump him for something better. So you might want to actually use Han to play this R2. Pike Sentinel. It's a 2/3 Sentinel. You get it out really early in the game. It prevents you from taking damage so you can continue to do your Palp engine. Love Pike Sentinel. I think blue is always better off in Twin Suns running a few cards like this. Cassian. Cassian somehow was a card that I didn't include until kind of later with this deck when I was doing the budget version. And I was like, yeah, I think we need Cassian in this deck. Like, he's just so good. He's got a big butt. Here I go with butts again. He's got a big butt. He can take lots of damage. You can smuggle him in and have him ready. He's just great. He's not especially synergistic with Palpatine, but I think he's a good solid unit in general. And plus the smuggle gives you a little bit more flexibility with being able to play him kind of when you want to play him. Unfortunately, you can't use Han's ability to get him out early if you're smuggling him, because Han specifically needs you to play things from your hand, but it's still nice having the flexibility. Calculating Magna Guard. When played or when a friendly unit is defeated, this unit gains Sentinel. So if you're doing this right, you should hopefully be turning Sentinel on at least the turn you play him, and likely the turn after you play the Calculating Magna Guard. You're hoping to get your guys killed as much as possible. Calculating Magna Guard lets you profit off of that. Batch Brothers. This is my favorite turn 1 play in this deck. Play this for 2 with Han. It dies coming in, and then you get a Clone Trooper token, and then on your next turn you can flip Palpatine. I just love it. Like, I don't care about Batch Brothers surviving. I just want them to feed the engine, and it's super satisfying getting this in my opening hand. I definitely don't resource it because it's like, oh, Batch Brothers, you're doing such good work for this deck. Oh, it's Fifth Brother. Y'all know I love Fifth Brother. Fifth Brother's awesome. Again, you can grit, not grit, Fifth Brother's version of grit. You can raid them up. You can get them all like ready to go with Han, play him earlier on, and then swing for a ton. He's awesome. We love Fifth Brother here. Tech. Okay, like, come on. It's a Twin Suns deck. You have access to heroism. There is no reason to not play tech. You're going to want to smuggle things in, especially with this deck. Giving this deck smuggle is so good. It gives you so much more flexibility with when do you play a heroism card, when you play a villainy card. Tech lets you do those things, and he's a 2/5. He stays around longer. Fantastic card. Ezra Bridger. Ezra's great. He is a dig through your deck and find stuff card. And I feel like I'm going to keep saying this. In this deck where you need to have the right aspect at the right time, Ezra helps you find that. He lets you get rid of stuff, or he just lets you play things. So usually if you can attack with Ezra before you do anything else on a turn, see what's on the top of your deck, get the option to play it while you still have the resources, I think it's a real solid play. Ezra's great in this deck. Yoda. Yoda's got Restore 2. Yoda's got a big butt. And Yoda's got a great when defeated effect. You're likely not going to give everyone else the card draw, but you could if you want to have some fun diplomatic conversations. There's a lot of Force units in this deck. There was a part of me that really wanted to do this deck with all the Jedi I could fit into it, and then also execute Order 66 and just kill my Jedi and make clones. And then I was like, oh, it doesn't actually work. It's fun, but it doesn't actually work. But Yoda was one of those things. Oh, it'd be so great to kill Yoda with Order 66. Okay, no, we're not going to kill Yoda with that. But he is definitely there to die because we want to draw cards and soak up some damage. It's great. Phase 2 Clone Trooper. It's like the Phase 1, just with ambush. So we've got all the flexibility of we can insta-kill a guy for 2 if we have to. Although since this one has ambush, we may as well pay the full 3 and actually take out an opponent's unit and get our ability to flip our Palpatine procced. Death Watch Loyalist. I mean, we're running Han Solo here. We may as well play the Death Watch Loyalist at a discount, all gridded up. Love this. Of course, part of the challenge here is not letting our units instantly die, But, we've got some tricks up our sleeve for that kind of thing. We've got covert strength here. We've got desperate attack. We've got some sentinels. We've got sneak attack just in case you can't play something with Han Solo, but you can still, we have a few different kinds of things at our disposal here. We even have stuff like merciless contest if our guys get too damaged and we think they're gonna die. Okay, where were we? Okay, we have the Death Watch Loyalist. Death Watch Loyalist is cool. Grievous. Okay, so Grievous is an overstated 3-cost unit, essentially, with an on-attack ability that's never going to proc because we don't even have that many lightsabers in this deck. But the cool thing about Grievous, and one of the things that I like a lot about using him in here, is that we do have, just for fun, we do have both the Fallen lightsaber and the Jedi lightsaber. Well, you know what? We can play these at any time we want, stick them on Grievous whenever we want. We don't care if our villainy side is up. We can just play them. If Grievous is out, he can swing with them. You can get a lightsaber on him, go to town. It's great. It's wonderful when it works. Okay, we got Ahsoka. While you control fewer units than an opponent, including this unit gains ambush. And as an action, you pay 2, return her and each upgrade on her to owner's hands. So Ahsoka's real neat. It's twin suns, so likely someone will have more units than you. Remember, Ahsoka counts for one of the units when you're doing the math there. I made that mistake the last game, and I was like, oh no, I'm doing bad. I don't get ambush. Also, you could play her with Han, maybe get an attack in if you're still alive afterwards. I mean, I guess it's possible. Then you can just return her to your hand later. I think she's cool. I think she gives you some flexibility in this deck. K2SO, of course we want K2 in here. He's a heroic unit with a good when defeated. And I think what you do with K2 is you just say, hey, everyone in the game, you're taking 3 damage from K2 when he dies. It's great. It's like you bring him out early with Han with 2 damage already on him. No one's going to want to deal with it. So hopefully just nobody captures K2. That's really the worst thing that can happen. But all you capture players out there, don't you dare take my K2 from me. Oh, Morgan Elsbeth. So Morgan Elsbeth, I feel like, is one of those rares that, like Unnatural Life, everyone in my play group pulled a bajillion copies of. I'm kind of sick of seeing her face, honestly. I pulled 6 or 7 of these, and I'm just like, oh, man. Okay, well, I guess we're going to use Morgan in something. This is the deck. Morgan works great in this deck. Newt Gunray, no. She goes in Palpatine Han. And the reason for that being, obviously, she's got a big butt. She's got Restore. Those are nice. But her on attack, you may defeat another friendly unit. If you do draw a card, she is helping us do the thing that we already want to do on our terms. So we could even play her when we have 4 resources if we're on our villain side. Next turn, it's flipped over. Great. We made a clone trooper on our last turn. We attack with Morgan. We kill the clone trooper that we just got out, draw a card, enable our leader flip, draw another card, heal. She's great. She works so well with Palpatine. I think she is so good. Dwarf Spider Droid. It's a 3/4 with grit. Han can help grit up our units. I think you might be sensing a theme here. Han Solo and grit. It's good stuff. Chewbacca, Loyal Companion. Speaking of Han, well, in the sense that it's his buddy. He's just a big sentinel that no one wants to deal with. And the fact that he gets readied when attacked is just extra juicy. You don't want to use Han's ability on Chewie because we want Chewie to soak up as much damage as possible. But I think he's a good include to kind of stop people from getting in. I had to do this. I think my love for Wookiees has already been broadcast to the world. Playing a deck with Chewie and BK, it just makes me so happy. So we don't care so much about the enemy unit having a bounty part. If it happens, it's nice. But his on attack, choose a ground unit. You may deal 1 damage to it for each damage on this unit. We can play him with Han. We can get him out early. He can come in with damage already on him and just start helping us plow through enemy stuff. I think this is just real cool. I'm glad that we have an excuse to run a good Wookiee and a bad Wookiee together with each other. Zero the Hutt. I mean, hell yeah, Zero the Hutt. Zero the Hutt just disrupts everything. Less resources, less units available to everyone else. This is great. Zero helps us get there. Oh, Plo Koon. Oh my God. I mean, what's to say about Plo Koon? He's great. I mean, he's essentially a 6/6 with ambush. We have to work to get the coordinate there, but you get everything set up. Plo Koon is going to hit real hard if you've been able to keep enough of your guys alive to play him. Rey. So yeah, I've got Rey and I've got Kylo in here. I think the two of them are really good. I mean, of course, with each other, it's great because it enables you some more flexibility playing Kylo if you already have Rey. But because there is such a mix of non-heroism and non-villainy units, you can be sure that when you are able to attack with either of them, that you'll be able to get their on-attack abilities to proc. And I think that's awesome. And also, they're like pretty strong, like 4/7 and a 6/7. It's not nothing. I like having a chance to play them together. I always want to play them together. And because we're playing blue and red and yellow, we have that excuse. Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's great. He's a 4/6 sentinel. He has a great when defeated ability, just in case he has to be the one to trigger our Palpatine flip. Like, he is a great unit to cause us to flip Palpatine. Giving two experience tokens to another friendly unit is awesome. And you may have noticed at this point, there's a pretty good amount of Force units in this deck. And we want to take advantage of as many of the Force synergies as we can. That's the other reason there's all the lightsabers in here, because we can put lightsabers on. Well, let's just go through it real quick. Who are our cool Force units? We got Ezra, we got Yoda. We've got, I mean, Grievous doesn't count as a Force unit. He just likes lightsabers. We got Ahsoka. We got Morgan. We got Plo Koon. We got Rey, Obi-Wan, Kylo. There's going to be a few more. We'll get to it when we get to it. But like having the flexibility and being able to play a powerful upgrade on one of those, I think is really good. I'm hoping we'll get some yellow lightsabers at some point. Come on, guys. Give us a yellow lightsaber. Kylo Ren. So we might be able to play him when we only have heroic aspects if we have Rey. I'm not counting on that. It's a nice plus if it happens. His on attack to buff a unit for the phase and give an experience token if it's a non-villain unit. That's great. We're going to have, I mean, at the very least, we should have a clone trooper out on the field when Kylo is out. So we're hoping that he's not going to swing too much. I mean, he's a later game unit. But we want it to be impactful when he does. We want him to at least get one buff off, which would be awesome. Gentle Giant. It's another Wookiee. We got Han. We can pre-grid our Wookiee. You know the story. It's got a really big butt. It can take a couple of damage, and then it can start healing our guys that we need healed. Wrecker. Love Wrecker. Wrecker is such a great late game card. And he's just going to be good at dealing with threats on the board. So I feel like later game, we're still playing pretty much just hero or villain. But like because of the colors that we're playing, there's a lot of really powerful units that we have that can help us like close the deal here. Gorilla Attack Pod. I love this as a later game thing. It's gridded, so you can use it with Han and get an immediate benefit. And if someone has 15 or more damage on their base, you just get to ready it. This might actually like be potentially more useful than Wrecker depending on when you play it, because they both take 6 resources, but this one you can potentially swing with immediately. So it's another one of those like fun to play around. Like, you know, this is obviously a really good unit, but when do I need to use Wrecker? When do I need to use the attack pod? It's like, it's just fun. Count Dooku Darth Tyrannus, the old one from set 1. Just lets you defeat a guy. It's like an almost takedown and a unit at the same time. Love it. Another Force user. He's just great. Like Dooku is great. It's Luke. Of course it's Luke. Luke is another awesome card. Friendly units are going to be defeated left and right. So we might even be able to use Luke to take advantage of a friendly heroism unit dying. Play him before flipping Palpatine, then flip Palpatine. I guess it's not really, you don't have to think about light side units as much with this as when you're playing a non-Twin Suns format. I've played a lot of Palpatine. I have made a Palpatine, I think, in every single color. I think he's just a neat leader. So sometimes you just internalize those, like, no, I need to do this in this order with him. And the cool thing about Twin Suns, you have a little bit more flexibility. And Luke is there to take advantage of that flexibility. Love Luke. He's great. He didn't make it into the budget version of this deck, obviously. Chewbacca Pike's Bane. It's another Wookiee. So we can either play him from hand with Han at 7 resources. Does the takedown effect. I love that we have both Dooku and Luke and Chewie. They all have the removal effects built in addition to just being big old chonkuses on the board. And because we're running red, we can also smuggle Chewie in at 9 if we have to. So again, you get that extra flexibility. And then last, we got Snoke, another Force unit. And sort of not necessarily a board wipe, but he definitely does a lot to weaken everyone else's board and immediately make all of your opponents hate you. So of course Snoke's got to be in there. Snoke is awesome. All right, we got some space units. We don't have nearly as many space units. This is more of a ground sort of deck. I'm really, really curious as to see how these kinds of decks are going to change once we get really into Jump to Lightspeed, because so much of that stuff is space. I'm super excited to build around it. I think this card, actually, Wolfpack Escort, is going to be very fun to use in deck building this next set forward. Oh my gosh. So when played, you may return a friendly non-leader, non-vehicle unit to its owner's hand. I think this is really useful. If you use the heck out of your units, then this lets you get a mech. So maybe we just want to do something simple, like we play R2, either this R2 or this R2 at a discount with Han, get some damage on him. And then I'm like, no, I actually want to keep R2 in play. I got my extra card, or I looked at the top card of my deck. That's fine. Well, then we play this for 1. We get that back in our hand. We do it again. It'll be great. The fun thing about this is it doesn't care, as long as it's a non-vehicle and a non-leader, it doesn't care what the cost is. So you could, in theory, play something like Dooku. You could play Wrecker and then return those to your hand with this and then get their cool ETB effect on a subsequent turn. I think Wolfpack Escort is a really fun card. I can't wait to see this when you start sticking pilots on it, honestly. It's Tylan Fighter. It is a 1-cost villainy space unit. That is literally why it's in here, because I wanted an easy-to-play villain card. This gets it for me. Droid Starfighter, exact same thing. 1-cost villain unit in space. Easy to play. Cartel Turncoat. 2/3 in space. You can play it for free with Han if you really want. It gives you that, oh, I'm desperate to get my engine started. Do I stick out this card with a bounty on it? See if I can dangle the bounty in front of someone enough to get them to kill it. And then I can be like, yes, okay, cool. I can flip Palpatine. Awesome. Inferno 4, it's blue villain. It's an 80 card deck. You put Inferno 4 in there. We just want to dig through our stuff. Inferno 4 lets us dig through our stuff. Reckless Torrent, one of the few neutral cards I put in here. But if we can proc its coordinate, this lets you deal 2 damage to a friendly unit and 2 damage to an enemy unit in the same arena. So essentially, it gives you the ability to kill one of your guys and one of someone else's. And hopefully you can kill a heroism unit so you're able to get Palpatine to flip. Black Sun Starfighter, Sentinel in space, fairly easy to play. Unfortunately, not very useful with Han because of the 2-sized butt, but what are we going to do? It's going to at least stop some damage from coming in. And again, it's Twin Suns. No one wants to attack the player with the Sentinel. They're going to go looking somewhere else, hopefully. Lurking TIE Phantom. I mean, we're running yellow. We're running villain. This is going to be in there. This card is just too good to not put in. Again, it'll be interesting to see where we are with indirect damage once the next set drops, but here and now, this is a difficult card to deal with, and we're going to have it in here. Devastating Gunship. So it's got that mini takedown kind of effect. If something has 2 or less remaining HP, it has grit, so playing it with Han for cheap makes it even better. I think it's great. I think Devastating Gunship works really well in this deck. One of our other few neutral cards, Geonosis Patrol Fighter, has an exploit 2. When played, return a non-leader unit. It costs 3 less to its owner's hand. So this is very cool in this deck, especially being that we don't care what flip side we're on. We can kill one of our heroism units no matter what with this. We don't care if we're on the villain side. We don't care if we're on the hero side. We can just say, I'm exploiting this clone trooper to get this out and then return something else. You get to do a whole bunch of stuff triggered off of playing this one card. Geonosis is like, I think it should be in like every Palpatine Sidious deck. I think this card is so good for this character because it gives you the flexibility of being able to use it no matter what. Granted, this is Twin Suns. We don't necessarily need that flexibility as much, but Geonosis is so good at enabling you to do Palpatine nonsense, and it waylays something that's cheap or completely gets rid of a token. Like, lots of good stuff with this card. Absolutely love Geonosis. And also the hyperspace version of this card is one of the best looking arts in the set. Ruthless Raider. Ruthless Raider is great. It's just so good at being a big butt, at doing damage to bases, doing damage to units when it comes in and when it dies. We like death triggers in this deck a lot. It doesn't matter as much with villain cards, but it's another villain card to play. First Light. First Light's great. It's a grit unit. So if for some reason I play it out of my hand, I can play it with Han, grit it up, give everything else grit because probably things have been damaged if I've been playing them with Han for cheap too. But it's also got the smuggle with the additional cost of dealing 4 damage to a friendly unit. It's just so good. I just love that you can pre-grit something. Like, this is going to be at the point of the game. If you're playing First Light, then maybe we've got some Wookiees out. You know, maybe we've got the Gentle Giant out. Maybe we've got Chewbacca Pikesbane. Maybe we just have like Chrysanthemum. They can take a lot of damage. It would be really good to grit up the Wookiees that don't already have grit. First Light lets you do that. And then Redemption. Redemption is kind of the opposite. It's like, okay, let's heal a whole bunch of things. But also it like lets us heal from our base more. Because in this point of the game, we've probably flipped Palpatine a ton of times and made everybody mad by doing 2 damage to you, 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 2 damage to... Like, people aren't going to stand for that. We're going to get attacked. And don't forget, like, we don't have access to, like, a whole leader unit like everyone else does. We have to be content with just little old Han Solo, Mr. 3-6 on 5 resources. He's not going to do a ton for us. He's going to do some stuff for us. Like, he's still like a good free unit. But Redemption helps us bounce back if we can manage to consistently heal ourselves with our light side leader ability. All right, let's move on to the event. Covert Strength. If I'm running blue in a Twin Suns deck, I'm going to run this. It's a smuggleable card. Lets you heal a unit, lets you give an experience to it. There's very few times when I don't want this ability, and I think it's really cool to have this. Wartime Profiteering. I think this is such a cool card in this deck. I also love the artwork. Look at cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of units that were defeated this phase. Draw 1 and put the others on the bottom of your deck in a random order. I'm going to be defeating my own units. I'm going to be hopefully helping people defeat theirs. This is kind of one where you just need to surreptitiously track what everyone else is doing. And then as close to the end of the phase as possible, you're just like, hey, wartime profiteering. I'm going to draw, I don't know, 6 cards and get one of them. Like, it's a potentially huge way of filtering through your deck. And it's a villain aspect card. So it counts as something that can flip from dark side to light side, deal damage to everyone, get a clone trooper, all that fun stuff. This is the only deck I've managed to make this card work in. I think this is a great card for this deck. Heroic Sacrifice. So great with Chancellor Palpatine, enabling you to kill one of your light side units. Do not use this on a dark side unit. This is definitely for using on killing a heroic unit and dealing a ton of damage at the same time. Love it. Give in to your anger. So I think this is a fun card, specifically for Twin Suns. To deal 1 damage to an enemy unit, its controller's next action this phase must be an attack action with that unit. If able, it must attack a unit if able. So if you're in a situation where you don't have any units, but other people do, well, guess what? You can use this to force somebody to attack somebody else's stuff. I think that's super fun. I don't really see this as being a useful premier card, but I think in Twin Suns, there's definitely some hijinks that you can do with this. And also, it's a 1-cost villainous card. It's easy to play to enable you to flip back to your light side with Palpatine. Love this card. Desperate attack. We're going to have damaged units. Let's get even more juice from the squeeze. Let us desperate attack our way to victory. Extra 2 damage. Heck yeah, I'll take it. Private manufacturing. This was not an original include in this deck. I really like it in here because it's deck cycling no matter what, which is going to be good because you're probably going to have, at least at some point, stuff that's not going to be useful for a while. But also, it's highly likely that we're going to be manufacturing a clone trooper or 2 from our flip. And if you time this right, then it just gets you more card draw. Fantastic. More cards, more good. Surprise strike, you know it and love it. Just more damage from a unit. We want to get in the damage as much as we can. This is great for the Han leader. This is good for anything with an on attack. Even like one of our little R2s from earlier. Awesome. Grim Resolve. Attack with a non-leader unit and it gains grit. Our units are likely going to have damage on them because we've been using Han. So we can at least get another 2 damage from something, possibly more depending on how much it's been hurt. Sneak attack. So sneak attack is also, it's great for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's great always because you can play ahead of the curve at the cost of a unit being defeated. But also in this deck, we kind of want our units to be defeated. So if we want to play a ready Wrecker, we can do that. If we want to play a ready K2SO, we can do that. Sneaking out a K2 with this deck is an awesome move. And when you can nail it, it feels so good. I love this card. I love the flexibility it gives you with this deck in terms of making it easier for you to play things. Force choke. We frequently have force units on the battlefield. So this will frequently be 1-0 if we have Bib Fortuna. Just to remove something. It gets them a card, which sucks, but 5 damage to a non-vehicle, that's pretty good. No Good to Me Dead. It's another villain card. It's easy to play. You play this on your villain side. It's just a great way of messing with tempo, temporarily not letting a unit do something, and being able to flip back to your light side. I Am Your Father. Okay. So I think this card is good. I know that in Premier, it has a different reputation. I think in Twin Suns, you can play it situationally and potentially just draw a lot of cards because I think cards are so valuable in Twin Suns. You just want to make sure that you have a high enough value target. So is it good all the time? No. Is it good? Is it really good in the times that it's good? Yes. So this is like, sometimes it's good to resource this, but if you kind of pay 5 for it with tech later, that might not be the worst thing either. Power of the Dark Side. You know what? You love it. It just kills something. So if someone ever gets down to a situation where they only have 1 unit left that's not lurking TIE Phantom, then this takes care of it for you. Merciless Contest. We might also be in a situation where we don't have any units, but everyone else does. Well, this is 0 penalty for us. Life is grand. You may notice that a lot of these events are villainy. That is definitely by design because we don't care as much about using heroism events in order to flip our leader. I wanted to emphasize getting heroic units that could die on the board and giving us flexible choices of villain cards to play. So this is why we have so many villain events, because we want things that can easily be played in a variety of situations, excluding maybe this card. But like Power of the Dark Side, Merciless Contest, you're generally going to be able to find a use for these cards. And having that flexibility of saying, okay, well, I have this in my hand. This is a villain card that can flip me over to my other leader side. I think it's good to have a lot of options there. Search Your Feelings. It's another villain card. It's the tutor. We're playing 80 cards. Great. Search Your Feelings might not always be the best, but if you're desperate, this just gets you what you need, and that's fantastic. And of course, we got Takedown. It's just good, solid removal. I think Takedown is real useful. I didn't put other removal in here, honestly, because I was wary of putting too many more non-villain cards in this, and I also wanted to have room for some upgrades, and I wanted to let my units do the talking at the end. So like there's no more removal cards, but you know, we've got Devastating Gunship, we've got Snoke, we've got Chewie, we've got Luke, we've got Dooku, we've got Wrecker. So there's still a lot of options of like things that can be used for removal. All right, and then last but not least, we've got some upgrades. The Hotshot Blaster, it's in the colors, so we can either play it regularly or smuggle it in. This is great with the Han leader. It kind of shores up his stats a little bit. Clone Cohort, this just says, oh, you want to kill one of my guys that I don't immediately get a benefit on? Well, fine, we'll stick Clone Cohort on it. It'll give me a clone token when it dies, and it'll give me a raid too. Like anything that gives you more clones to sacrifice at a reasonable cost, I think is great. Clone Cohort does that, and it'll give extra damage when you have it. Brutal Traditions. Y'all know I love this card at this point. Being able to play something from your discards just to have a little bit more flexibility. So good in Twin Suns. We're hoping to defeat enemy units. We're hoping other people are defeating enemy units. Great. If we have Brutal Traditions, we'll get it again. So good. Perilous Position. I feel like this card has become a mainstay of removal at this point. I think it's an excellent card. Always happy to play this on something. Lock it down for a turn. Yes. Frozen in Carbonite. I've been really enjoying playing Frozen in Carbonite recently. So yes, this is in here instead of Waylay. Number one, because we get a kind of Waylay effect from Geonosis. And number two is it is villain and Waylay is not. And it gives me another card that I can use to keep my Palpatine engine going. And then we've got two different lightsabers, the Fallen one and the Jedi one. And these are in here because we have so many Force units. We want to make them even stronger. We have Grievous, who can take either lightsaber at any time. They're just good, solid upgrades to put on things. So if you've got any of those Force units out and you just want to make everyone sweat a little bit more, bam, lightsaber. Awesome. Well, that is this wild, wacky deck. So let's get into the budget version of it, because in the new version of swupdx here, it doesn't show costs. I feel like this one was probably around $160, $180, something like that. The budget Old Man Yells at 80 Cards deck, I think came in closer to like, I want to say 30 or 40. I don't remember exactly. Hopefully the updated swupdx will have that TCG player price information soon. Although I don't want to speak ill of the update. The update has been awesome. Thank you, Parker, for all the work that you're doing with this website. I use it like every single day. And oh my gosh, like it's just the best. So I'm just excited to see what else happens with swupdx. All the changes on it have been fantastic. So all that in mind, let's get into what did I do to make this a more affordable deck. You can kind of see the history. This isn't super good information, especially because I messed up there. And it's like, oh, did I get that one? Did I not get that one? But basically, what did we do? We took out the most expensive things and we replaced them with as good of solutions as we could. So I took out Grievous. Of course, Grievous is a legendary, and I replaced it with the super battle droid right there. Yeah, it has one less health, and it doesn't have any cool abilities, but it is a substantially cheaper card and still hits for 4 damage. So yeah, it doesn't do quite the same thing, but I think it's a decent substitution. And also they just kind of look silly. I'm sorry. They look kind of silly. We got rid of Ahsoka, and this was actually the change that made me think about including Cassian, because that was my original thought, is we take out Ahsoka, we put in Cassian. I later made room for him in the other deck. I think Cassian does similar things as Ahsoka. Sure, he doesn't get the ambush, but he does have a slightly bigger butt, and he's got smuggle. I think Cassian is great. We love him. We'll keep him. I took out Rey, and I put in Kanan Jarrus. He's another Force unit, so we didn't lose that much Force. We did lose one Force unit with Ahsoka. Kanan is still great. We're not going to be running like Spectres in here, but essentially he's going to be a restore 1, mill for 1, something that we can stick a lightsaber on, maybe. There are less lightsabers in this version too. Lightsabers are expensive, y'all. Let's see. We took out Kylo, because Kylo, again, legendary. And I put in Xanadu Blood. There's not a ton of underworld stuff in this deck. There is some. A lot of the Wookiees and a few of the other things. But honestly, it's just a raid 2, 4/6 for 6. It's still a good ship. It still takes a licking and keeps on ticking in the space arena. I think Xanadu Blood is a good budget substitute. It doesn't do the same thing as Kylo, but it does get us another villain that's the same place in the cost curve. And I think this card, the last time I checked, was like $1. It might be less or more now, but it's not going to be an unreasonable one to put into a deck. These cards, Xanadu Blood is great. This is a great unit that is always fun to put in a deck. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, we had to take out Luke. Of course, we took out Luke, replaced Luke with Kit Fisto, the Smiling Jedi. So Kit Fisto, unfortunately, is not heroism, so we don't care as much about him dying, but he does have a good on-attack coordinate ability of dealing damage to a ground unit, and he's a saboteur, and he's just got a winning smile. So I think he can be a decent substitute for Luke. He comes out a turn earlier. He's not the most exciting, but he still does a lot. So you kind of have to wait here, the cost here. Let's see, we got Wrecker, and we replaced Wrecker with Enfys Nest. I think it may have been the other way around, because Wrecker is a 6. That would have been Kit. Luke is a 7. That would have been Enfys. Great. We got there. So Enfys, also like a relatively cheap rare. I think also about $1. She's got a when played on attack, you may return an enemy non-leader unit with less power than this unit to owner's hand. So Enfys is bouncing units with 5 power already. I think she's great. Obviously, she's not Luke Skywalker, but she is helping to adjust the tempo of the game. You can get her out earlier with Han and bounce some of the things that are maybe like one turn weaker. So yeah, I think Enfys is still a solid include. She wouldn't be my first choice, but as a second choice, she's awesome. Of course, we took out Snoke, because Snoke is also expensive. We replaced him with Emperor Palpatine, I think also about $1. Palpatine is great. Like, honestly, like I had him in my main deck for a bit until I was like, nah, I think we go with Snoke. His ability to do kind of the mini board wipe and have overwhelm is fantastic. Like, Palpatine is still a really good unit. Doesn't quite do what Snoke does, but is still good nonetheless. And then, of course, I took out the 2 lightsabers because they were just a little bit more money than I wanted to spend in a budget deck. We left Vader's in there. I mean, obviously, we're not running Vader, but it is a villain card that costs 2. We can stick it onto something to give it +3/+1. It's still like nothing to sneeze at. And then last but not least, I put in no contest. I put in no bargain. I got it right. Each opponent discards a card from their hand, draw a card. It's not functionally the same as any of the cards that I got rid of. However, I think it's a really fun Twin Suns card. It gives you card advantage. It makes everyone else get rid of a card. I mean, this deck already makes everyone hate you because of the leader ability. So, you know, just give them another reason to keep the hate flowing from them. Palpatine would have wanted it that way. And cool, that is it, y'all. If y'all are interested in these decks, I will have the deck links posted in the description below. Was there anything that you thought was a super stupid include? Am I completely out of my mind? Also, let me know about that in the comments below. As always, please like, subscribe, all that fun, stupid YouTube stuff. We're going to have more fun videos coming out in the future. I have more Twin Suns decks that I'm brewing. I'm going to do videos about leader pairings for Jump to Lightspeed. We're talking about the upcoming tournament in Vegas. All kinds of great things. This game is in a really cool, fun place right now. I'm just excited to be doing anything with it, period. I love this game. I hope you all love it as much as me. And yeah, I think that about wraps it up. So until then, let's do this again sometime.